Awesome. Thanks everyone for being here. I know the conference is sort of winding to a close, but we're got an amazing panel here of three of the most unbelievably successful, dynamic, entrepreneurial stars working in the media landscape today. It just so happens digital media is a big part of what they do. Before we jump in and hear from them, we got a quick video, wherever the screen is, to show you just a little bit about who they are and what they do. Roll it.
Another beautiful day in the Sunshine State of Florida. Oh, that's a little partly cloudy. Okay, let's go.
Oh my God, Jenny, look. I'm on Facebook. Lol.
Got any snacks?
Dear 16-year-old me, you'll learn the difference between alone and lonely. Life's not always easy, and in fact, it's about to get a lot harder. It's going to break you, but you're going to get through it. They're not lying when they say it gets better, and I know that's probably the last thing you want to hear right now. We as people never self-congratulate ourselves, but we should start. So let me start and tell you that you'll accomplish things you've always wanted to. You've worked hard for it, and you deserve it. Be proud of the things you do, and don't stop now. This is just the beginning.
Awesome. So normally at panels, I would ask people who are typically executives to introduce themselves, because that's what executives do. But you guys are massive stars, so maybe it feels weird talking. But really quickly, Jen, otherwise known as JennXPenn, how many followers do you have on YouTube right now?
I almost have 2 million subscribers on YouTube.
That is unbelievable. 2 million people who tune into everything that you do. And Batch, you are the most followed person on Vine, right?
Yeah.
What is it, 12 million now?
12.1.
12.1. I missed the .1. I'm getting fired. And Josh, you're maybe, in my opinion, one of the most unique people working in the media business today, in that there's so many of these amazing digital stars that are coming out of platforms. You actually started on traditional television on Nickelodeon, and now you've reverse engineered that into being a digital star. Let's start with you and talk a little bit about how, being a famous person, a celebrity, an actor, an artist in today's landscape is different than maybe what it was when you were on Drake and Josh for all those years.
Well, I think coming up in the traditional world of theatrical TV and movies was a great way to get in, but now, more than ever, we've sort of been presented with this opportunity to bypass the gatekeepers and create your own content and go direct to your audience. And so when the opportunity of Vine came about, I just found it so refreshing to not be beholden to the system and casting directors and waiting a year for something to inevitably come out. I could go direct to my audience, and I had total control over it, and I could see their reaction and adapt. So if they loved something, I knew that that could be a series, and if they didn't love something, which they're very happy to tell you, then I could delete that character. So I think more so now more than ever, you don't have to be in LA or New York. You can become a celebrity in the middle of America and the suburbs. You just have to have great content.
And it's not as, a lot of people, maybe people who are a little older in the audience, they think, oh my God, these kids are at home and they're just like goofing off on their cell phones and they're becoming a star. Just like there's an art to creating a feature film or an art to being a really talented TV creator, it's got to be an art. It's got to be hard to create 6-second videos that entertain people over and over and over again. Batch, you're a classically trained actor. Talk about how you think about creating these videos. I imagine that's just a lot of pressure to be really funny in 6 seconds every day.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, people think it's easy, but if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, I started doing the YouTube videos, but creating videos in 6 seconds, there's a story in everything that I do. A lot of people, they just see it, oh, it's a funny video, but every video I do, there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end, and that's something I learned from film school. So I just incorporate what I learned in film school, and I base it around a comedic situation.
And Jen, you're big across a number of social platforms, but YouTube is where I feel like you're probably known the best. You probably grew up idolizing more traditional actors. I'm sure you had a favorite actor or actress growing up, and now people look at you that way. What does it mean to be a YouTube star? Sounds limiting, but a star whose audience really has been developed because of YouTube. Talk about the relationship that you have with the audience, which is probably very different than Reese Witherspoon's relationship with her fans.
Yeah, so my relationship with my audience is very, very personal. They know everything about my life. I talk directly to them every week on YouTube through my videos. I can talk to them through social media. They're the reason that I've become popular on the internet, so I never want to forget about them or not communicate with them. I think social media is all about having a conversation, so it's really important to continue to have that conversation with your fans.
I'm going to stick with you for a second. So I think a lot of people a few years ago assumed that social media, YouTube, Vine, that it was a means to an end, that it was a stepping stone, that if I could only be successful on YouTube, maybe one day I'll be in a movie or a TV show. It doesn't really feel like that's the case anymore. It feels like people have developed, I'm saying as if I don't know, for the audience, it feels as if people have developed these really robust careers as digital content creators. It's no longer the red-headed stepchild of the media business. It's its own thing, and it's really big. Talk about how you view your career from here and moving forward. Like, what are your ambitions, both digitally and otherwise?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when I started YouTube, I kind of just fell into it. YouTube stars weren't a thing when I started. So I guess my goal with YouTube was just to be able to put my content out there and entertain people. And I didn't realize that it would be this kind of platform that could get me off of digital media. But now that I have the platform and I am able to be doing things off of YouTube, like I just filmed my first movie, I wrote a book, so I'm doing cool stuff like that, but I think I want to also stay put in the digital world because it's becoming such a big thing right now.
Batch, you, whereas Josh started in TV and moved into digital, you really have used sort of what you've done in digital to generate really meaningful opportunities in traditional media. Talk a little bit about some of the things you've been doing specifically in television, which are really cool.
Yeah, so through the Vine platform, it's got me in the doors to do auditions, and been on House of Lies on Showtime with Don Cheadle, The Mindy Project on Fox, Wildin' Out, Black Jesus, a couple movies here and there. So it's really opened the doors. But the benefits of having your own following is I can really create whatever I want. So people that I look up to, Tyler Perry and Will Smith, both producers, both create their own content. Now, how it is now, if I get the financing, I can make a deal with iTunes, make a movie, whatever I want to do it, and have my fans just go, since it's all digital, click the button on their phone, watch the movie. I can make the money that I make back, whoever the financiers are, they make their money back, and everybody's happy.
So you no longer need, and Josh mentioned the word gatekeeper. It used to be if you had an idea for a movie, you had to go and walk hat in hand into Warner Brothers, and here's my idea, please trust me, give me money, and then one day maybe it's a movie and it's really expensive and there's all this marketing dollars, and according to the accountants, they never break even and have profits. You can make a movie for X and pretty much know that because you are the marketing machine, that your audience is gonna show up, and you can be profitable on virtually everything that you do.
Exactly.
Investors in the audience, who wants to get in on this? Josh, I think you had a really unique perspective on this. So many of the digital stars are very young, and in many ways, they are the child stars of today. They're people who, they were in junior high yesterday, and today they're in a position where if they send out a tweet and say that I'm on the corner of something and something, thousands of kids are going to show up. You probably went through an analog version of that back when you were on Nickelodeon. How has it changed? Like, what is the difference between being a television star and being a digital star?
Well, I think that the digital world is truly a sort of a microcosm of the real entertainment world. I mean, it's real entertainment, but there are the people that have amassed huge followings that perhaps might be more of a flash in the pan, just having a momentary, a touch of success. And then to someone like Batch's credit, he's parlayed this into so many other things, and he's been able to stay ready and say, I'm not just this, and I'm totally capable to do X, Y, and Z. And I think that's really refreshing because I think the model for all digital media is adapt or die. You know, we would all love to stay in the movie and TV world and just have it the way, you know, with the great actors that we've all grown up with. That's always been my sort of template for what I wanted in my life. But the digital world emerged in this way that I would have been crazy not to take advantage of it. And what's beautiful is that because it's such instant interaction with your fans, you'll know quickly whether or not it's for you.
Right.
You know, and they'll let you know many times over.
I imagine that's really empowering. If you were to go and develop a TV show, you're walking into a network saying, here's an idea I have, and I think my fans will like it, and 9 months and millions of dollars later, you find out if they like it or not. You guys put up videos, and you know immediately whether people like it, and if they do, you do more of it, and if they don't, you try something else. That's got to be really refreshing.
Yeah.
And what I think is cool is that, you know, you can parlay it in traditional television and movies, but I know a lot of people that don't watch TV or movies anymore, but I don't know anyone who doesn't have the internet.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, and so it's so accessible to go to, you know, Jen's YouTube channel or to check out your phone. I mean, it's what we do. We're constantly engaged on these platforms, whereas it's a little more of a trip to schlep the whole family to the AMC and spend $100 on snacks and a movie. But I mean, if there's any casting directors for movies out there, I'm available.
He's available. A lot of people don't realize the degree to which digital stars have to be entrepreneurial and have to manage so many different platforms. So again, we've talked about Vine as it relates to Josh and Batch, and we've talked about YouTube. Jen, talk about the platforms that you use on a daily basis in order to build and maintain that fan base that drives everything you do, because it's not just YouTube.
Yeah, so YouTube is my main thing, but social media is my job. It's my life pretty much. I'm always using it. I use Twitter all the time to communicate with my fans, like I was talking about earlier, Instagram for pictures, Snapchat. I do occasionally use Vine, but it's definitely not my main thing. It's just really important that you're always having that constant stream of communication with your fans and your audience and constantly letting them know what you're doing, what you're up to, because they just like want to know what's going on. They love you. Yeah, they look up to you, they love you, they want to know what's happening, and it just keeps you relevant and in what's going on.
And when do you decide to experiment with new platforms, right? So if we were having this conversation 18 months ago, Snapchat would not have been listed. Now everyone who is serious about social media thinks about Snapchat and Snapchat stories. Are you already experimenting with things like Meerkat and Periscope and YouNow and sort of live streaming?
Yeah, I've definitely experimented with a lot of live streaming things, and I think live streaming is really, really cool, and it's something that fans really, really like. I don't do as much of it anymore, but I want to get back into it because my fans want me to. I always see messages asking me when I'm going to do my next live show and stuff like that. I think to decide what new social medias to start using, it's kind of a difficult thing because, I mean, the same thing happened with Instagram. Instagram hasn't been around that long, and people started using that. It's just, I think we as creators and influencers are looking for the next new thing that isn't already out there, because a lot of things come out that are very similar to other platforms, but we just need that new next thing that can bridge the gap between us and our fans a little bit more than what we already have.
Let's not talk exact dollars, but let's talk about how all of this works, right? Because what's exciting is that just like being an actor or a director or a producer, for the really talented people out there, can be a great career. Being a digital star, being one of the best, is turning into something where there's, it's a real job. You don't have to be a barista on the side. A lot of it presumably comes in the nature of brand relationships, right? Most of what we see on the internet is driven by brands. Batch, talk about your perspective on how you work with brands, the decision to work with a brand, the things that you keep in mind, because it feels like what everyone's saying is that the relationship between the creator and the audience is so precious, and it's really what drives everything. I imagine you have to be very careful not to pollute that relationship with too much inorganic branding. How do you integrate branding, which is what makes the money, into what you're doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. At the end of the day, our audience, they come to our channel for the skits or for the whatever content that we create. So if we do work with brands, we'd have to integrate it in a way that is seamless to the audience. So for instance, if I were to work with Coca-Cola. I would do a Vine, make sure it's in the format of how I do my other Vine videos, and just have the product in it in the same like type of way.
Got it. What about you, Josh? I mean, as a guy who's been on television, you're certainly used to, and now we go to a commercial break. So how do you feel about brands being adjacent to or in the stuff that you do?
I mean, I think inevitably we've always sort of, it's show business. It's always sort of gone hand in hand. As much as we want to be the true artist, there has always been the business side of things. So to Batch's point, I think it's just imperative that you find an organic way in which to put it into your videos. You're making sure that most of your content isn't branded so that you're continuing to give the people what they originally came to you for. And I don't know, I'm a fan of it because we all got to make a living. And before branded digital content, maybe you would do a movie or a television show that you weren't sure was great, but you had to do what you had to do. And that's not in our control, and it lives forever. Whereas if we come up with branded content, it can be something really funny, super engaging, and it's only on for a certain amount of time, and then we take it off of our channels depending on what we come to terms with the brand. So to me, it seems like really taking your future into your own hands.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe a few years ago, there was a certain amount of pride in being a digital star, but it required more explanation, right? Like, oh, really? Like, you mean you make Vine videos for a living? You moved from suburban Philadelphia to LA because you're making YouTube videos? People didn't get it. I feel like at some point, the curtain got pulled back, and now the world has realized what's going on. Variety had a study where they polled a bunch of young people on who they were most influenced by, and it wasn't big movie stars or TV stars, it was all digital stars. The cover of the New Yorker, the cover of New York Magazine, the cover of Adweek, it's all focused on this space. Do you sense in your community, amongst your friends, this real sense of pride that, wow, what we're doing is actually not only fun and lucrative, but it's become really important, that it's now globally something that's really big, the way an athlete would know, wow, like lots of people like what I do. Is it sunk in how big it is what you guys are doing yet, Jen?
It's crazy. I think it's still sinking in, but definitely the community, I know for YouTube, is all very, very supportive of one another. Whenever someone in the community gets something big, or for example, Grace Helbig, Hannah Hart, billboards, New York City, everyone is super supportive of that kind of stuff. So it's moments like those where I think the community kind of does realize that this is happening. People are starting to recognize it, because I mean, I've been doing this for 5 years, and I came from a small town in Pennsylvania. I started in high school and no one understood what I was doing, and it's crazy that now people are starting to finally get it.
But it feels like now you could go virtually anywhere in the world, and with a simple tweet, thousands of kids would show up on a street corner.
Yeah.
That's got to be crazy.
It's insane.
Batch, what do you feel? Do you feel like in the Viner community, do you feel like there's a real sense of community, and that it's not just a bunch of people fooling around, but like that you're doing something that now actually resonates on a global basis?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of analytics don't show up. Like Aruba. I went to Aruba. That doesn't show up in our analytics. I took a picture. I said, we're going to be here tomorrow from 4 to 5. Come out. I was thinking like maybe a couple of people came out. Hundreds, if not thousands of people came out just to see.
In Aruba?
In Aruba.
Not like Aruba, New York or something, like the actual island.
Yeah, Aruba. So it's crazy what it does, but it kind of makes sense. If you think about it, these hit TV shows, they'll get like 3 million views and 3-5 million views. We're getting like 8 million like minimum on our platform. So
you're getting more people to watch your Vines than watch like The Voice on NBC. Like,
yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's insane because the demos is the kids in school that are watching it. They're so quick. They can watch them in school. They show their friends, and then their friends show their other friends, and it just grows like a snowball effect.
Is there really an Aruba, New York?
I'm assuming there's an Aruba somewhere. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't the island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Josh, we'll end with you. Again, like I feel like you're the person that brings all of this together because you represent both sides of the coin. In television, it's a job. You show up and you have employers, you have showrunners and a network and a studio, and there's a director. And it's also a massive platform that continues to be really important. In digital, it's got to be really liberating to just be able to show up and do what you want. The creative freedom has got to be something that is unlike, we've probably never seen it in the history of the media business. I imagine that's what's attracting you to it. Let's end the discussion by just you commenting on that.
I would agree with your point that the freedom and the ability in which to go straight from your mind to your audience is unprecedented. But to, Big Vine and YouTube stars, to their credit, what crosses over all platforms, be it traditional media or digital, is the work ethic and your passion and desire to really put out great content. Because that's been my experience. And content is king. And if you're doing things that are cutting edge, that are funny, that you hold up to a certain level, and that's sort of like the not challenging thing, but you're very self-governed in the digital world. It's up to you to nitpick the smallest detail and to make sure everything's perfect. So if you're willing to put in the work and post, on a normal schedule, you can have a great result.
Awesome. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for being a great audience, and on to the next session.
This was awesome.
Thank you.